Welcome to the Fandom Post Radio Podcast. I am your engineer, Kate, and joining me this week is Kestrel.
Yo.
And Cain.
Hello.
I'm going to do a small, tight podcast.
See you in 3 hours.
Oh, yeah. No! Yeah. It's just us three here this week. I'm back. I'm back from... Was I on? I wasn't on the last one, right?
You were on the last one?
No.
We did a fall? Yeah, fall catch-up.
What year is it? Where
episode.
Are we?
Believe it or not, it is nearly 2022.
Oh my god. Terrifying.
Yeah, I've been watching anime for many years, and I think I'm finally getting used to the fact that the fall anime series is actually like winter here. At least where I live, like it doesn't quite match up, and it always confuses me, but I'm finally... It's clicking. Something's clicking up there.
The anime seasons are literally like a week after the real seasons, so it's just that, yeah, it gets colder some places in North America, but yeah.
You mean like real seasons for like television? Because I don't pay attention to that at all.
No. I mean like real seasons for life. Like.
Oh, well, I guess it's
like fall begins.
That's also true.
The fall begins, in the last week of September, and then the fall season begins October 1st.
Oh, I guess it's also true. I don't pay attention to that either. So I'm really just completely off the ball.
Because
for me, fall starts when like I gotta wear a jacket to go outside.
I mean, that's getting further and further back every year, though. So
I mean, does that happen to you before the fall season starts? Because I don't do that until like October.
Oh, I'm cold all the time.
Oh, I see.
Hell, it's been warm as hell here until like November 1st this year, so...
Oh, this week up here in PA is all fucked. Like, it was 60 or so today, it's supposed to be 70 or so tomorrow, and then it's gonna be 40 the day after that.
Oh, do you want our weather? Because it was like 30 degrees out. Like
No, I don't want any. You're dog shit weather.
Right. We're getting some snow on enough.
You can keep all that.
You're not that much further south.
Yeah, I think there's some
enough.
type of line though. Like once you get so far north, like Buffalo, New York, or whatever, that you guys just get like destroyed.
Yeah, New England and upstate New York is where it's shitty.
Buffalo, New York is a whole other kettle of fish. There,
it's a hell dimension.
Yeah, that place is just snow, like 100 feet of snow.
Hi, I'm from Vermont, and I'd like to have a word with you.
Yeah, I mean, your snow is charming, though.
It gets old.
You don't get the lake effect nonsense where you are, do you, Kestrel?
In what way?
Well, like the way Buffalo does. You don't get buried like Buffalo, right?
No, I mean the northeast of the state where I grew up got a lot more snow, and it used to get a lot more than it does now, because weird. But yeah, there used to be like feet of snow pretty often.
My aunt is from Buffalo, New York originally, and yeah, she's like, fuck that place and the snow. Mm-hmm. Fuck their snow problem. Here we just get bomb cyclones and everything falls over.
Yeah. I didn't know that was a thing until a few years ago, these bomb cyclones. I thought that was just like a funny internet term.
I know, I'm like, they're like, what's a bomb cyclone? I'm like, it's a nor'easter. Can we just call it a nor'easter? Because we already got a good name for, like, the winds are coming from the northeast and bringing all sorts of hell. They're like, I guess. But anyway, weather aside, it's almost Thanksgiving. We're not going to have another episode recorded before Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to American people. Canadians already had their Thanksgiving.
We're right between the two of your birthdays, aren't we?
Are we?
Yeah, mine was on Sunday.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You forget your birthday,
Kate? I'm old now.
No, I didn't know when Cain's birthday was.
Yours is in the next few days, right?
Yeah, next week.
Yeah. Nice.
Yes,
well, happy birthday, guys.
Thanks. I don't know. I'm old.
Yeah, now technically we have each of us in a different decade of our life for a few months here before I join Cain in the 30s.
I mean, I was already in a different decade, but, you know.
Well, I know. I'm just saying we got a 20-something, a 30-something, and a 40-something in this episode.
I know.
Got the whole spread.
The full decades of experience. Yeah, okay, you guys are still too close in age. So
Yeah, I'll be joining him in a few months.
To be young again. Or not. How much hell can we bring? All right.
All
Let's
right.
move on.
I say, shall we jump into, I believe what we're going to do, some news first, and then in pseudo celebration of Cowboy Bebop, talk a little bit about the other live action adaptations that I put myself through over the past 2 weeks, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
And appropriately, all of the news came from Netflix, and some of it involves live action adaptations. So Netflix had a big Netflix Festival Japan thing. The first day was all anime, second day was all live action. I don't know if it went more than 2 days, but those were the only things I heard about. So first, all their anime announcements. So we knew that we were getting JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stone Ocean on Netflix. So they announced that episodes 1 through 12 will be released on December 1st in all regions and all languages. They put out some extended trailers in various languages, including a dub. We're getting Kakegurui Twin, which is a prequel that is coming in August 2022. We're getting Record of Ragnarok Season 2, which is in production. Agretsuko Season 4, coming out December 16th. A new season of Beastars is in production. Ghost in the Shell SAC 2045 Season 2 is coming 2022. Ultraman Season 2, which is by the same team as that, spring 2022. Rilakuma's Theme Park Adventure, which is very exciting, 2022. Tiger and Bunny 2, after 11 years.
Wow.
Tiger and Bunny's coming back with 25 episodes. The first 13 will be April 2022 on Netflix, which leads me to believe that Viz does not have much interest in anime anymore because all of their properties are just going to Netflix now. Spriggan 2022. Kotaro Lives Alone, spring 2022. Vampire in the Garden 2022. The Orbital Children, January 28th, 2022. Exception 2022. 2 Detective Conan spin-offs, Zero's Tea Time and The Culprit Hanazawa. 7 Deadly Sins, Grudge of Edinburgh, Part 1 is 2022. And Drifting Home 2022. And Thermae Romae Novae 2022.
What?
Yep, I think it was announced, I feel like a few years ago that we were getting more of that, and maybe that it was Netflix.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Maybe I was thinking of something else, maybe live action or something. Anyway, then for their live action announcements, Alice in Borderland Season 2, 2022. The Gundam film was already announced, but they came out with like a key visual and stuff. Something called He's Expecting, which I guess is related to anime or manga or something. That's 2022. And Yu Yu Hakusho, December 2023.
That's a lot of shit.
It's a lot of shit.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any that you wanted to talk about in particular. I mean, I know we had briefly discussed it in the Discord about the Gundam thing, and for the most part, I don't really have too much to say about it at the moment, other than that is a Gundam in the picture. And it appears to be either broken partially or built partially, and then there's some fire. So
did they elaborate on the Gundam thing at all?
I don't think so.
I think they just released that picture, and then they're like, here's a piece of concept art that we think is really cool.
Is it Universal Century or something else?
I don't know if that's been confirmed.
Yeah, I don't...
Okay, we know literally nothing but Gundam.
See,
yeah, but yeah.
The thing about this is, like, you know, we'll be talking about these live-action adaptations, and they're doing a bunch more. Cowboy Bebop's going to be out probably by the time this episode's out. And they keep doing, like, straight adaptations or loose adaptations, but of the same storyline, ultimately. Gundam is a great platform for them to come up with a new story, whether it's in one of the existing universes or not. Like, in theory, G Savior should have been a really good idea. So I think they could totally make it work if they just come up with something brand new, Universal Century, brand new universe, whatever, and just use some of the Gundam concepts. I think that would serve it better than trying to just slavishly or poorly adapt an existing story and just invite comparisons and cause people to realize that these things are optimized for a specific medium, and trying to do a straight adaptation of them into something that they're not optimized for does not work out that well. That's my thought.
Yeah, I think Gundam definitely does, yeah. It applies itself to that, because when I was thinking of... I automatically thought about it in a light of Universal Century in an adaptation of the original story, and all I could think about was, alright, so this is either when Side 7's being exploded, or when like they're fighting at, I believe it's a Boaku, which is the last fight when the Gundam, and I think Char is piloting, I think he's piloting a Zaku or a Gelgoog at that point, but they're gradually becoming more and more destroyed as they do it. So I guess I don't really want to see those in live action in a way, because they've already been done in the original series, then cut for the movies, and then partially in like Gundam the Origin and some other places where it's like it's already achieved perfection, for lack of better words. So I don't need to see a very heavy Netflix CGI adaptation of this story. Yeah, they could just make another 8th MS team type thing if they want, or yeah, they can. That timeline's so...
They're gonna adapt War in the Pocket, and we're gonna like it.
I mean, the timeline is so kind of nuts by now when it comes to the 1 year war, when they added more and more side stories to it, because when the original Gundam was like, this is the Gundam, and then they got rid of all that when they keep introducing Gundams and stuff to sell toys in the side stories that are just at different parts of the galaxy. Or during or shortly after the 1 year war, they're like, oh yeah, we had like 16 more Gundams that we were working on. They could just do that, and it would be fine. So yeah, I agree with Kestrel. I think that would be better, because then it's got nothing to compare itself to. If anything, you got to compare it to G Savior, and man, they cannot lose that.
Yeah, it's like the Star Wars universe. Like, you know, they switch between live action, animation, different styles of animation, but they're not creating the same story. They're creating different parts of the same universe, and, you know, they fit together, and you don't have to have them all in the same medium. You can have them be some live action, some animation, and still be part of the same universe. That's fine. So I think that would be a lot better than just, you know, rehashing the same shit and, you know, realizing that it doesn't work out that well. I did find an interview with the director from June, I think. He says, the adaptation may be an amalgamation of several different things, different timelines, and whatnot. So, it's the only thing I've found.
That's weird. Okay.
Yeah. So, I guess that means probably just new timeline that takes some stories from a few of them. I don't know.
Stick it all in a blender. The only thing Gundam really needs is the robots, some kid getting thrown in the robot, people getting brutally murdered because military war bad, and then somebody yelling, "It's a Gundam!"
It's a Gundam.
You forgot about a blonde guy wearing a mask.
Right.
Yes, that's a blonde guy wearing a mask.
Really absurd names. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, you know, it's a little bit different because Gundam timelines, you've got different characters and everything, versus, like, you know, Marvel DC timelines. But I do always come back to the comparison, especially with the comments that he made in that interview, where, you know, those basically just cherry pick all their favorite aspects of all of the different timelines of, like, Marvel and DC universes. So I could see something like that happening here, but it is a little bit different when all the Gundam timelines have different characters and stuff. So I don't know. We'll see. We will see, because with Netflix, these things actually get made.
Yeah, which is terrifying.
Maybe not great. Because Yu Yu Hakusho, I'm not excited about.
Yeah, I don't remember anything about that show.
That's going to be a Japanese cast, though, right? I think that's being made for the Japanese market.
True, yeah.
So it'll just be like every other live action thing that comes out of Japan.
Those are slightly better occasionally.
Occasionally. But they're very much for the Japanese audience, so
whatever. Yeah, I guess it's true.
I think that the only thing I was thinking about when you put that in the Discord, the Yu Yu Hakusho, live action announcement was just like, how are they going to do the effects, and is it going to look like shit?
Yes and yes.
Most certainly.
Yeah, like, is it going to be cheap CGI that's going to look real shit for everybody, and then it's ugh.
Well,
I'm concerned about that with the Gundam show too. Like,
it's gonna be bad wigs, and
there's parts of me that for Gundam shows in particular in movies, if they're gonna try it, like, do more like stuff from like the cockpit of the mobile suit, so then you can make that real.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe flashes of outside like fighting and stuff, maybe with some stylized animation or something like that, rather than trying to do fully realized CGI battles, just because unless you give it a lot of money, I don't think they're, especially with Netflix, I don't think they're going to look super great.
I think
and Yu Yu Hakusho makes me feel the same.
I think robots are easier to animate than fucking, everything else going on in Yu Yu Hakusho.
And,
Yu Yu Hakusho has all sorts of crazy shit that make it even worse.
But you know what's going to be worse than that, guys? You know what's going to be so much worse than that?
Oh, I know what's going to be worse than that, because the only thing harder to like animate than do CG animation for than a live action battle thing with spirit people and weird things and whatever the fuck those people are in Yu Yu Hakusho is One Piece.
So they also announced the One Piece cast. For real this time, so I can't even be sure how to pronounce this guy's name, but Monkey D. Luffy is played by Iñaki Godoy, I don't know, a Mexican actor. Zoro is Makenyu, who is a Japanese actor who's been in the live-action Rurouni Kenshin, and he's done a lot of Hollywood work as well, so he's in Pacific Rim Uprising. And he was also cast as Seiya in the live-action Saint Seiya. And he's also Sonny Chiba's son. And then we've got Nami as Emily Rudd. Usopp is Jacob Romero Gibson. And Sanji is Taz Skylar. And other than Makenyu, I have never heard of any of these people.
Yeah, me too. Same. I'm like, oh, I get you. I know that person. Everybody else, I'm like, ah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's good or bad.
Other than the actress playing Nami, who seems to be a huge One Piece fan, from what I could gather, I'm like, that's good at least.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen so many like passionate reactions to this cast list in both directions of like, oh my god, this is such an amazing cast, or oh my god, this is going to be the worst thing ever, look at this terrible cast. But, like, nobody knows any of these people. We haven't seen anything about them as the characters. We've just seen them, like, freaking out in their living rooms about the cast announcement.
Yes, exactly. It's like, wait till they're in costume, people.
Yeah, we don't even know what they're going to look like in the costumes. Yeah, I don't get why anyone would even have a reaction yet. Like, Makenyu is probably about as decent a choice for Zoro as you can get.
People started pulling together, like, pictures where it's like, here's this person looking, like, kind of like the character that you could, so you could mentally picture this. I like these casting choices. I think they're spot on for just by looking at, like, from a attitude perspective of, like, what those people look like. I'm like, yep. Okay. I don't think they could do better than that. Right.
They can't do better, but like they're humans and therefore they do not look like the characters.
For live real human people, I don't think they could do much better than this.
Do you think Nami and the other female characters are going to get as shit on as Faye for Cowboy Bebop with her?
I saw nothing but love reactions for Nami's actress online, so...
If Nami's bust size doesn't go up by 1 every episode, then it's not a faithful adaptation.
What is this trash?
Yeah.
She's not a triple Z cup? What?
Yes, almost certainly, because it's the internet.
I like the cast. I do.
I have no opinion.
The fake leak cast from like last spring or whatever. I was like, I'm not really feeling this, so I'm glad that
it did have Makenyu as Zoro already, though, right?
That is true, yes, but that could have just been somebody going, "Who's a Japanese actor in that range that can speak English?" Exactly. that can be ripped. And, man, I saw pictures of like him totally ripped, and Taz Skylar like just abs as far as the eye could see. I'm like, yep, okay.
Yeah. Like, those two have the best chance because those two characters look relatively human, and they are as ripped as Hollywood boys need to be ripped, so it works.
Yep.
Luffy will never look like a human. Nami's breasts will never look human. Usopp's nose will never look human.
No, but I mean, casting wise, it's all like, yes, those three actors look like they could portray those characters in a realistic manner, which is kind of impressive. I'm like, looking at like Luffy's, casted actor. I'm like, well, it's like he is. I'm like, that's great. That's perfect. I'm like, who should be Pirate King? Yes, cast this Mexican kid.
Sure.
That's great. I was like, yep, Caribbean, Mexican kid, all right, let's go.
Yeah, and I think they did kind of look at Oda's SBS answer from however many years ago for the nationalities that he would give the Straw Hats.
Yes, although Taz Skylar appears to be British or something, or Australian. I know, he has an accent. He's from some British place. Yeah,
but I think, none of them, or most of them don't line up exactly, but they're all, like, close-ish. Like,
yeah, which is funny.
Luffy is Mexican instead of Brazilian. Zoro's obviously Japanese. Like, you're never gonna not have that. I forget what Nami was supposed to be. I want to say Swedish. I don't know. It's a white girl.
White girl.
Usopp was supposed to be African. They got a black guy, sure. And yes, Sanji was supposed to be French, right? So they got a European, sure.
They got a blonde guy.
Yeah.
So, blonde white guy.
Yeah. European, so at least...
European.
Yeah. Good enough.
Good enough. He looks good holding a cigarette. That's really all they needed.
You mean a lollipop?
Yeah, whatever they're gonna do. Probably won't be smoking on the show.
Yeah, I'm sure he won't smoke at all.
But I had that picture of the guy, leaning against the thing holding a cigarette, and I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think I heard that they aren't really smoking much in Cowboy Bebop, Netflix Bebop.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a thing now. Like, all the Disney movies, you can't have smoking in Disney movies anymore. So, like, even though smoking is like half of Cruella's character, there's no smoking in Cruella. Stuff like that.
Weird.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I
know, you always think of her with that cigarette holder and the...
the very Audrey Hepburn cigarette. Yeah, I used to know what those things were actually called.
I know. I'm like cigarette holder, whatever the fuck those things are actually called, yeah.
Smoke stick. Yeah, I mean, I don't watch enough Disney movies to have really noticed it, but that is kind of weird, especially because the first character I thought of for smoking was actually Danny DeVito's alien from Space Jam, which isn't even Disney, but I was like, yeah, smoking. Or The Mask, too. But, when did they start doing that?
I don't know when it officially became a rule, but I know for like the past, 10 years, maybe longer than that, anytime that they would release something that had smoking, like some old movie, they would have this big like warning in front where it's got a bunch of their characters like coughing at smoke and stuff and talking about how bad smoking is for like a minute.
Okay, I looked up cigarette holder and it's just called cigarette holder. So we're losing our minds that that's actually
there's got to be a fancier name for that thing.
Like a French term or something?
Right.
Yeah, there's probably a French term, but like I just like type cigarette holder and Wikipedia's like, cigarette holders, this is what they are, this is who used them. I'm like, oh. I'm like, yes, that is a cigarette holder. Oh.
So what else did you say was on that list? Not like, I think you said there was a Kakegurui prequel?
Yep.
Which is weird to think about in a way because they're already school age. So, I mean, theoretically, you could have a prequel that just takes place like 6 days before the show actually started. But I wonder why they went with the prequel, because it's not... I can't remember how the last season, XX, ended, quote unquote, but I don't think it, like, ended everything and everybody.
Yeah, we can always have prequels.
Yeah, it's just weird that you would do a prequel before the actual story is even over.
Well, maybe there wasn't enough material for more of the manga, and so they just
that's what I was just gonna say.
Yeah.
The hungry jaws of consumerism demanded more content.
Exactly. I'm surprised they didn't do a live action.
Could you get people that can make crazy enough eyes? Well, you CGI the eyes really crazy like.
If they're doing One Piece, they could literally do anything.
Well,
and why they could, I mean,
a live
shouldn't.
action.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, in Japan, right?
Yeah, see, I think it already has a live action. I don't think it's Netflix or anything, but
yeah, Japan has live action everything.
Yeah, I believe it already has one.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And it's not rated very well.
I'm sure it isn't. I don't know that you can find many that are.
They did 2 movies.
Yeah.
In 2018 and then 2019. They did 2 movies of it, so...
Japan churns that shit out constantly.
Man, I swear. It's nuts sometimes when I look at how much content is made out of even some of the most, like, mediocre properties.
Mm-hmm.
They just keep crushing out that content. Live action, stage plays, musicals, drama CDs, which I guess are just radio plays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've been doing those for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I mean, they're relatively easy. Just have them record more shit.
Mm-hmm.
And there you go.
It astounds me. It's like... in the days before podcasts and stuff became popular, and I always heard about, like, you know, radio dramas and stuff, and I was like, it always just blew my mind. I'm like, wow, that's weird, because we didn't have anything remotely like that over here, and like I couldn't like wrap my head around it. I'm like, that's such a weird thing to do.
I mean, radio dramas did exist here, right? Back in the old days.
But I mean,
totally.
like a real fucking long time ago, and then they, you know, went out of favor when television came into existence, and then came back into favor with podcasts, and then people started listening to long form, you know, fiction stuff, like, you know, like what is it called? I don't know, all that stuff.
Yeah, there was a bunch of them. I mean, Superman had a bunch of radio dramas where I think they outed some KKK members one time.
Oh.
And did that, and then, you know, Lone Ranger was a radio drama. War of the Worlds was a radio drama that people thought was an actual news broadcast at first. There was a bunch.
That's what
the Superman
Hollywood...
one is nuts because the KKK thing where they used it to like out KKK members.
That is interesting. Crazy. I'll have to look that up. Yeah. War of the Worlds.
I'm pretty sure it was Superman.
War of the Worlds was, of course, a huge thing for the people that thought it was news, and it was also what got Hollywood to court Orson Welles. Yeah,
I have that on record, actually, like one of the original recordings, which is pretty cool to sit down and listen to because it's still good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it still totally works, like, even without the whole, like, oh, it's on radio and it's real news. It's just, like, a really well, you know, it's Orson Welles. So, what can you really say that's bad about it? But yeah, radio dramas were super huge.
Yeah, because radio that's how any entertainment was carried before TV came into existence, and then a lot of those long-running radio drama serials got turned into TV shows, so they just transitioned.
So, I mean, would you say, in a succinct way, video killed the radio star?
Yes.
Ugh.
Interesting.
Why?
Gee, it's almost like they wrote that song for a reason. And then
I was going to say something else, and then that horrible joke, like, completely derailed my brain train.
You should just yell, "This podcast is over."
Yeah, I didn't sign up for this. Yeah, so that was. I'm just trying to wrap my head around all that Netflix shit. I mean,
I'll list off some of the shit we might care about again. So we got JoJo, Kakegurui, Agretsuko, Beastars, Ghost in the Shell, Ultraman, Rilakuma, Tiger and Bunny, Spriggan, Detective Conan, Seven Deadly Sins, and Thermae Romai.
Oh, that's right. I remember looking at the poster for Spriggan, and I was actually pretty excited about it because I like that movie, or OVA, I guess. It didn't really get a whole lot of traction over here in the States. I think it only ever got a DVD release at best, in a very kind of like shit one. But I think this will give it some traction. I think Spriggan would be a property that could be easily. I think it's live action. Is that live actioned, or is it CGI'd?
This new thing is coming.
Yeah.
It's definitely anime. I think it's CG. It's Studio 4 Degrees Celsius. Oh no, that was the original. It's David Production, so maybe not.
Oh, this like a trailer or two out, like a teaser trailer from July or so. But either way, if it gets people interested in it, and then they'll watch the original '90s OVA, that'd be dope. Because the story isn't the greatest in the world, but the animation on that is fucking top notch. Like lots of great sci-fi action. It's super '90s. So I remember, seeing that and getting excited about it. But it does look like they changed what some of the people look like a little bit to kind of bring them into a more modern aesthetic, rather than the '90s aesthetic, which is fine. I understand why they would do that. I hope they keep most of the kind of the story and the action and things like that, because it is just a big old action frenzy. Like it isn't very deep or philosophical. At least not in comparison to other stories of its time. It's rather surface level. But that's cool. Rilakkuma is great. I am excited for that. I'm sure Emily will be too, because that is comfort watching, even though it isn't super comfortable in some ways, because it's just like the woes of a single woman. But that's quite a plate. Yeah, and I know, and you said, and JoJo's what, December?
Yep, December 1st, we're getting the first 12. So not that far away.
No, not at all. So it'll certainly be exciting. Kate, are you interested in any of the other stuff? You had a reaction to Thermi Romi, which I've seen a lot recently, but I have no idea what it's about, because it's every time I see it, it's like pictures of like Greek statues.
That I laugh. I have the editions of the manga that Yen Press put out, and there were these huge, heavy, hardcover, coffee table sized books. And on the first one, they had a plastic slipcover that went over it with a fig leaf, basically to cover up the genitalia on the statue on the thing, which is fucking brilliant and hilarious or something. I don't know if it was a fig leaf or that's just where they put the title on that. But then if you take it off, it's like the full statue or whatever. I just thought that was hilarious at the time. No, I mean, it's just weird because I think they've already done a couple adaptations of this. They did a kind of a short form thing, and there was a bunch of live action movies in Japan. And I'm like, the story's basically done, isn't it? You've told it in multiple different forms already. So, I mean, I think I'm just confused as to why there's more of it now, of all things. So,
well, what is it exactly? If you don't mind giving me like the sort of Cliff's Notes.
It's about a Roman engineer who does bathhouses, who he gets sucked through a drain or falls through a water portal, or I don't fucking know. He ends up in Japan, modern day Japan somehow.
Like you do.
And then, like you do.
Like one does.
He fell asleep in the bath, woke up in modern day Japan, couldn't communicate with anybody, but ended up like falling in love with Japanese bathhouses, and then taking that information back to the emperor. I can't remember which emperor he was serving under, and basically using things that he saw in modern day bathhouses in Japan to like, spruce up his ideas about like Roman bathhouses. Like that's the gist of it. Like the story goes, I think he meets some chick later on in the story, but like it's that's like the gist of it is, and then he like falls back asleep in that bath or trips or slips or something and ends up back in his own time again. So yeah, it's like, are you really time traveling? Like you keep getting knocked in the head and then you're or almost drowning and ending up back and you're traveling back and forth through time. So
you're saying it's something of a hot tub time machine.
It's like a hot tub time machine. Man, Kestrel's
I was just gonna go with
this podcast is over. No.
I was gonna go with just a series of concussion-based fever dreams.
Yeah, also
basically, yeah.
Over and over again, hallucinations based off of massive head trauma.
And the dude's like super overdramatic and stuff. And when he's in like modern day Japan, everyone's all like, "Oh, check out this foreigner," and like kind of because they're like, I don't know, because Latin, whatever. So.
Oh yeah, there was a movie in 2012 that was made.
Yep.
Huh. Yeah, that was
the other thing too. It's been a while. That's the other thing too. I'm like, why now? Why this?
I gotta say, that's not what I was expecting the story to be about from looking at like the random pieces of art that come up, like the covers and things. I'm like, oh, is this just about Rome and stuff and your typical Roman gods or
No.
What was that series? Secco Boys? Was that?
Oh man. Oh, it's been so long since I've heard that mentioned. I think Secco Boys is about talking statues.
Right. See, that's what I always think when I see this, is that it's going to be somehow similar to that, because they both just look like, ancient Roman or Greek statues.
It's more like it's a really well-drawn gag manga.
Right.
Show. It's like a comedy, but it's like really absurdly well-drawn. She's like, the mangaka's like a classical, like, trained, like, artist. She lives in like Italy now or so, or I think she was living in the States for a while. She was living in Italy for a while. She was the artist that did the Steve Jobs biography manga.
Wow.
Yeah, she's like, interest all over the place, but so it's one of those manga with like really hyper detailed like backgrounds and architecture and shit. And it's telling the story about this guy who slips on a fucking bar of soap and ends up traveling through time, basically.
Yeah, I can get behind that. That sounds fun.
It's pretty cool. The Yen Press editions must be long out of print by now, but there were some books.
Yeah, I think if I Googled it, I'm looking at the covers of them, I believe they're popping up amongst the other images from the movie and the manga and stuff like that. But they're really well drawn covers.
Yeah.
I like how there's like spots of like bath towels, which makes sense now.
Yep.
Now that you mention it. Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I'll check this out. Sure, why not? Whatever.
You're like, sure.
Fuck it. 2022, what else am I doing at that point in time? Fucking nothing. Oh, yeah. I wanted to ask you, Kestrel, because I'm sort of out of the loop with that fandom, and maybe you're a little more involved since you keep up and watch them. Is anyone asking for more Ghost in the Shell stuff?
I mean, I'm sure it makes money, but like the first season of this was not good. And I think the second season was already confirmed, like, before the first one came out. So this was inevitable. But, yeah, the first one was not good. And I think a compilation movie of it just came out. And, yeah, again, Kenji Kamiyama is just doing so much for so many huge franchises. Because, and a lot of it is with Shinji Aramaki, who's going to be at AnimeNYC. Because they co-directed Blade Runner Black Lotus, which just premiered a few days ago, and that's weekly. And then they've got new seasons of their Ultraman show and their Ghost in the Shell show for Netflix, both coming out next year. Kamiyama's Star Wars short for Star Wars Visions just came out with the rest of the shorts, or that anthology. And he's doing the Lord of the Ring anime that's coming out too. So yeah, he is insanely busy with so many insanely huge properties. But yeah,
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, did anyone ask for more of this particular Ghost in the Shell? Almost certainly not. I don't think there has been particularly good Ghost in the Shell since Standalone Complex. And this was, potentially promising because it was in that universe and it brought Kamiyama back to it. But it's just really bad CG and surprisingly bad writing and direction. So yeah, we could be done with Ghost in the Shell now. They've kind of churned out some shit the last few times, so maybe no more is okay. It's just getting worse and worse.
That's what it felt like, because I remember you watching the first season of that Netflix show, and I remember you giving it like a fucking C-, I think, or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Sounds right.
Yeah, and all I could think of was the same thing. It's like I've been seeing Ghost in the Shell stuff that's been made after Standalone Complex, but none of it seems very good.
Yeah. That's pretty accurate. Some of Arise is okay. That's about it. It's kind of right on that borderline of, like, is it worth watching even as a Ghost in the Shell fan? Maybe not. And then the new movie that's associated with that, kind of on the other side of that border of probably not. Obviously, live action is garbage, but that's a whole different thing. And the, which I guess we can talk about a little bit. And yeah, SAC 2045, not good at all. Not as bad as live action, but for Ghost in the Shell anime, certainly the worst we've gotten.
Yeah, not a super great batting average. I was thinking about it as you were talking and listing off the bad sequels and live action, that it's more culturally relevant, but I was thinking that the equivalent over here is how people keep making Ghostbusters shit, and nobody's asking for Ghostbusters shit, but yet new movies keep coming out and shows and other stuff, and it's just like, it was a good movie that defined somewhat of pop culture in the 80s, and it had a worse but acceptable sequel, and now all of a sudden it's being treated like it's a royalty in Hollywood. And I don't understand.
You missed out, because Ghostbusters, for being an adult, essentially what was an adult comedy movie, had a very popular cartoon for kids in the 80s. That
I have a VHS.
Yeah, ran for a lot of seasons and sold a lot of merch, so...
Yeah, it might just be slightly beyond my time, which is very true, because I have, when I was younger, so I guess it's more had, a VHS of that show. Like, it was like 4 episodes. I remember watching it a lot, just because pop VHS is in, whatever, it doesn't matter. It had a lot of Canadian cartoons and shit too, but I do remember that. It's just, for the most part, I feel like, I don't know, maybe no one talks about the cartoon nearly as much as the movie, and treats the movie with this reverence and not so much the cartoon. Like, I could be wrong there, but just from my personal experience, it's people who like the movie that came out. Yeah, and maybe you're not even aware of the cartoon that was before that and ran for a while. It's the Bill Murray vehicle that they're more aware of.
The live action movie was the first thing in the franchise, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And it was Dan Aykroyd's fever dream.
That's right.
700-page script about ghosts, because he actually believes that shit. So, like, he was like, this is my cocaine fueled fever dream 700-page thing about ghosts and how we capture them. And they're like, cool, can you pare this down to, like, a movie?
So just to be clear here, Ghostbusters is Ghost in the Shell, Ghostbusters 2 is Innocence, and the real Ghostbusters is Standalone Complex. That's what we've established here.
100%.
Interesting.
Absolutely.
At least until, like, the real Ghostbusters became obsessed with Slimer, because that's when the show became shit. So, yeah, so yes, the early seasons of the cartoon show match up pretty well with that. So,
I do like that, just because the new Ghostbusters is coming out like tomorrow. The fact that Finn Wolfhard who was born in, like, I don't know, 2003, has made his entire career on 80s horror nostalgia. Because all of his things are 80s horror nostalgia: Stranger Things, It, and Ghostbusters.
I know, that's super fun.
And he is born in the 21st century.
I feel like it's like, you will inherit our pop culture.
He's
carry it forward.
Making bank off grown-up nostalgia.
It's like, just mine these Gen Xers and early millennials for all the money we're worth, and that's basically what it is.
I've heard that new Ghostbusters is not very good either. say the initial reviews have not been very kind.
Can't be worse than the last one they tried to do, right?
No, I read that there was fine. People were like, it's like kids, and I'm like, yeah, Ghostbusters has been about kids essentially since after the second movie came out. I'm like, the franchise shifted to be basically about kids for kids at that point.
I'll tell you, it's doing a lot better. Doing a lot better on Rotten Tomatoes than Cowboy Bebop.
That's probably absolutely true.
Yeah, that hasn't gone very well either. I haven't read any of the reviews for Cowboy Bebop yet because I don't want to.
Yeah.
I'd rather go into it cold. But man, all the headlines are like, it sucks.
Yeah.
They're like, there are people that know nothing about Cowboy Bebop. They're like, hey, this is a fun romp. And then anybody who knows anything about Cowboy Bebop is like, why? Burn in hell.
Yeah.
So I'm all like,
I haven't read any reviews. I did listen to ANN's podcast earlier today, where Lindsay talked about the first episode a little bit. And yeah, it all sounds real bad. So I look forward to putting myself through that entire season next week, I guess.
Wheel of Time's reviews have been doing much better, so I'm happy I picked the good show to dive into.
Yeah, I'm the major, like the thing that connects all the headlines together that I keep seeing is like Netflix Bebop is like watching a bad cartoon.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that, and I thought the exact same thing about the live action Full Metal Alchemist movie, which is Japanese, but the same thing is that the live action adaptation is way more cartoony than the fucking cartoon it's based on.
Yeah, that's not great.
Yeah.
You do kind of get that from the trailer.
Yep. And the little Lost Session thing they did, and the opening. Mm-hmm. Yep. Totally.
Yeah, when I think about it a little bit more after seeing those headlines, I could see how the whole series would extrapolate out into that.
Yep, for sure. It's all like really kind of cringy, Joss Whedon quippy type appeal that is not Cowboy Bebop at all. And yeah, bad effects, bad attempts to recreate frames exactly. Stop it. Just stop.
Yeah, I mean, we could go into a big old, I could go into a big old rabbit hole about that quippy stuff, and for all the good that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has done for like superhero properties, I think that's one of the major things that they've really kind of inadvertently done, which is now everybody wants to do quippy dialogue and stuff, because every action thing needs to be comedy now. We can't have, non-quippy heroes and sarcastic humor and stuff like that.
Let's put it this way. Bebop was humorous, but it's often very dry.
It's a different kind of humor.
Apparently they're missing completely. Yeah, they're totally missing the point if they're like, heh.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's like, hey, look, it's like Guardians of the Galaxy. It's like, no, it's not.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I like that shit in Marvel, most of it, because most of those directors and writers have figured out how to do it well, but everyone else just tries to ape them and completely misses the point, and sometimes tries to apply it to material where it does not work at all. And this is a good example of that. And yeah, the Guardians of the Galaxy thing, like, the DC universe, obviously they were trying to do the MCU again, and they rewrote Suicide Squad last minute to try to be Guardians of the Galaxy. They didn't get it. That's why they hired James Gunn to redo it for the Suicide Squad. And then similarly, back when like the Chris Nolan Batman trilogy was the hot shit, DC tried to make every superhero thing like that tonally, and it didn't work because not every superhero is as dark as Batman, and not every director is as good as executing that as Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, so, it's like dark, gritty Superman. Yeah. It's like, no.
Stop it.
Please stop, no.
So yeah, that's the problem with, extremely successful properties having these trademarks, is that everyone else thinks that you just copy those and it works, and it does not work.
Yeah. Between the quippy dialogue, super heavy CGI, like especially ending final battles where it's just like these incredible, ugly CGI monstrosities that all of them do, not just Marvel, but all of them do it. I mean, it was one of the only bad things about the first Wonder Woman movie is that it goes from she's helping soldiers in the trenches of World War One, and it's very personal, to the end where it's just flippy CGI explosion dog shit. And that's, it's partially because that's what sells, so that's what everyone tries to do for better or worse. And at least for Cowboy Bebop, the quippy stuff just doesn't really fit. And like, you guys are right, it's a drier sense of humor. So it does have humor, but it's not Joss Whedon shit. It's not Buffy the Vampire Slayer stuff.
Yeah. A lot of it is, very understated and situational, more than the characters being, like, sardonic. And in terms of, like, the effects, it works better when you're an Avengers movie and you have, like, $400 million to throw around, versus a 10-hour live-action Netflix adaptation of an anime series. You're not going to get that kind of budget, and you're not going to get that kind of time, and it's not going to look that good.
No. It's you need a lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot of money dedicated you to make it look even halfway decent. So, I'll still watch it. I can't promise I'll watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
If I'm sitting through it, I'm like, this is awful. I'm not gonna go through all 10 hours of it just to say that I did it. Like, I'll give it more of a buffer than I would your standard anime show, where I would give it 3 or 4 episodes. Maybe I'll go up to halfway and then decide after that, like, is this still worth pursuing, or do I hate it? And then I'll just shut it off, and I can talk about what I did watch. So we'll see. Yeah.
I've been telling myself for the past few months that I'm going to watch it all, the whole first season anyway, no matter how bad it is. But we'll see how that actually goes.
Yeah, I think the only, like, the main criticism that I don't really care about too much at this point is John Cho being old. I don't know why it doesn't bother me. It just doesn't.
I think it's because Spike looks 10 years older than he is, and John Cho looks 10 years younger than he is, so it kind of evens out.
This is true.
Yeah, and I guess it's also because it's, full disclosure, it's been a long time since I've seen the anime, but I never really thought of Spike as being a particular age, and that age being a defining characteristic. It was always about his attitude and compatibility and things like that. So John Cho looking a little bit older doesn't really bother me, because I'm like, well, if he can still act like Spike Spiegel and do kicks and jumps and action and stuff, then I don't think his age really matters to me personally. I know that got some flack.
I mean, let's be clear here. The ages in Cowboy Bebop are absolute horseshit. Spike's in his 20s, Jet's in his 30s, Faye is like 20. It's absurd.
I always thought Jet was in his 40s, easy.
Right? Yeah,
they all look and act way older than their target, whatever they put down as their ages. It's like,
Yeah,
which once again, it shouldn't be that big of a deal, the age of anybody, as long as they hit the aesthetic. Yeah. Or at least as much of the aesthetic that they can accomplish, given they're trying to make an anime real.
Yeah, Spike is 27, Jet is 36, and Faye is technically 77, but, 23 effectively.
Indeed.
Yeah, Spike has, had an entire lifetime under his belt, and he's 27. Jet is an old-ass fucking man who's had an entire career. He's 36. Yeah. It's silly.
Indeed. So, I'll certainly give it the old college try when it comes out. I mean, why not? I think it deserves that at least a little bit, much like anything else that comes out that doesn't immediately repulse me from looking at a trailer or reading a synopsis. say, speaking of Cowboy Bebop and live action adaptations, unless there's something else you guys wanted to talk about with the news, we could slide right into these Hollywood movies that I made myself watch.
Go for it.
Oh, yes, please.
Cool. So before I talk about any of these, I just wanted to know, what have you guys seen? Because I can tailor what I talk about based off of what you have seen, or at least what you're very much so aware of. Because I don't want to just rail about fucking, Speed Racer or The Guyver or whatever, and you guys either haven't seen it, didn't know it existed, or don't know anything about it, because then I'm just monologuing.
I'm very aware of all the big-ish Hollywood ones from, I guess, the 21st century, basically. I haven't seen a lot of them. I saw fucking Ghost in the Shell opening Thursday preview night in IMAX 3D, but I haven't put myself through many of them, honestly.
Kate, how about you?
What have you watched? What do you... what was your spiel?
I just want to know which ones you've watched or are aware of, so then I can tailor what I talk about based off of that. If you haven't seen any, that's fine. It's just...
All I've subjected myself to is Alita.
Oh, cool. I mean, I think Alita's good, actually.
Alita might actually be the best one out of them as far as adaptations go, which is...
I don't agree with that, but...
Oh, I mean, okay, well, do we count Japanese stuff?
No.
Japanese stuff, okay.
No. I didn't.
So specifically Hollywood live-action adaptations of manga or anime, correct?
Yes, that is what I was doing.
Yep.
And Hollywood, I was being a little... I don't even know if being a little bit generous, because I don't know if you could call The Guyver a Hollywood movie. So...
I mean, it's got Mark Hamill, right? Yeah. So sure.
Sure it does.
Oh, it's got... Just one more on mine. Does Detective Pikachu count? Because if so, then that's another one I've seen.
Oh, wow, I forgot. I've seen that, but I forgot all about it. I didn't even think about it for a second.
That's kind of based off a game.
It is based on
Detective Pikachu was a game first.
I mean, yeah, and all of Pokemon was a game. But it is it's very much in the anime space.
Yeah, I mean, that counts. Sure, I don't have a fresh memory of it, but I'll count it. I mean, I counted Edge of Tomorrow, and that was based off of a manga, which is based off of a novel.
Yeah, that one I would argue, because it was directly based off the novel, and the manga was published a few months earlier to tie into it.
Yeah,
I'm going to count it mainly because every time I Googled it, it came up in lists. Every list.
All right, that's fair.
People were desperate.
Right, exactly. You need a good one. You got to pull something out of the deeper realm.
Well, to be fair, there are also not that many.
Yeah.
I think if you look at the Wikipedia list of ones that were made in the United States, I think I've watched every one of them except for Fist of the North Star.
Scrolling.
Yeah, Fist of the North Star may be it.
Wow.
Because that's hard to find.
Right.
Alita, the Guyver.
I mean...
Or Guyver.
So I think there's only maybe 7 or 8.
Death Note, Dragon Ball Evolution.
That one, yeah. I haven't seen that one, and I won't see that one.
Dragon Ball Evolution?
Yeah, I draw the line there. I know that's bad.
Everybody knows that's horseshit.
Yeah, that's...
Let's see. Fist of the North Star, Ghost in the Shell, Naruto. Oh, that hasn't come out yet. Oh god, who's making a live action Naruto?
I mean, again, that's one of those things where, at this point, unless it's Netflix, most of these things will probably never happen.
It's kind of like the Akira live action movie.
Right, exactly.
Okay, the list is pretty short.
There's really not that many. And if we're talking baseball numbers, the batting average is not terrible for them being enjoyable films. So, I mean, I could start talking about Alita, which I think is the second best one. And I think it does a lot of good things and a lot of stuff right. I just think it has a couple flaws, and the ending is bad. And the ending is mainly bad because it's a cliffhanger.
We're never getting another one.
I won't spoil it in too much depth. It's clearly made with the idea that a second one was going to happen, and I don't think that's ever going to happen. I think I have some notes down while I was watching it, but Alita is a perfectly fine film. I think it has groundbreaking effects. That's probably the biggest strong point about it. And it has a surprisingly good cast. It's underutilized, the cast, because I mean it has Christoph Waltz, Rosie Salazar, she's Alita, and up to that point I think she was just in like some CW shows and things like that. And then it has I can never pronounce his name right, but Marshala Ali, who plays Blade, who, you know, Vector, but he's Blade.
I mean, not yet.
Well, you could clearly tell watching it that he was auditioning for Blade. Like he was playing Vector, but he was playing Vector as if you put the character of Blade in there because of the mannerisms and things. Those are all really strong cast members, and for what little bits they do have with each other, there is some chemistry there, especially between Christoph Waltz and Rosa Salazar, because Christoph Waltz plays Dr. Ido, who finds Alita amongst the junk in this garbage pile from the floating city in the sky, and brings her back to life and treats her as like a daughter, especially when you find out that, his daughter's dead. But, yeah, it's the shittiest part of the film, other than the ending, is really the super contrived, forced romance with Hugo, who is just a nothing character.
Which is weirdly accurate to the manga.
Yeah, I remember that was what was in the Discord, is that's actually accurate, but it sounds like, well, then that's a shitty part of the original manga, too, unfortunately. So I guess they nailed it in terms of how it was portrayed in the original manga, but it doesn't translate to movie form any better, because it's one of those things where it felt super rushed because Alita just runs into him in the street and then immediately starts falling in love with him, but then you never really learn anything about Hugo or what he does other than he is good at parts and being a mechanic and can play a little bit of motorball and stuff, but like you have no idea about his family or of really any personality outside of he's nice to her, and he's like one of the first people that she meets. So sometimes it feels like, she's falling in love with him because he's the first dude she meets that isn't an old man. So if you remove those portions of it, I mean, the motorball scene is great. The use of their one fuck word as a PG-13 film is fantastic, because it's used in the middle of a battle scene, and it's very like well utilized. And yeah, it's good action. It does a good like origin story in that it doesn't just dump the exposition on you right away. Like, Alita is X number years old. She blah 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 blah. Right in the very beginning, you kind of find out as the movie goes along in mixtures of flashbacks and pieces of information from conversations between Alita and Dr. Ido, and Blade says some stuff. But I did like how they spelled out her origin story based off that. It's not just, here's a bunch of exposition, here's some action, then here's some exposition, and here's some action. It unfolded itself gradually as the movie went on. So yeah, that one's definitely watchable. Like, I would recommend that one to anybody, even outside of like, give me an anime that's a movie. It's just a really fun, well executed, like CGI, fighting festival. Like, it's a lot of fun. So Kestrel, if you haven't seen it, it's great. Like, it's, especially if you have a good TV and a sound system, because it had a really nice Atmos soundtrack too, with like, there was always like sound going above you from machinery being in the city or the motorball arena and things like that. So it is really well put together, and it did decently at the box office. I just don't know if it's ever getting that sequel.
It didn't do enough numbers to immediately greenlit a sequel. So
yeah, I see on here it did 405 million.
Yeah, after a budget that was...
Yeah, the same, but I don't know what the budget is.
Yeah, it looks like budget was half that, so, I don't know what break-even point really was.
I think that is break-even. Well, that used to be break-even, was that plus that. Which is not enough for...
Yeah, not to mention, this is at least partially a James Cameron property, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And he's not doing shit right now because he's so focused on trying to make those godforsaken...
12 Avatar sequels.
Yeah, he's trying to make those fucking million godforsaken Avatar sequels. So, I don't know.
I just don't care about blue cat aliens that much, James Cameron.
Yeah,
I guess he thinks somebody does.
I mean, it is literally the highest grossing film of all time, so like...
Yeah, but I don't know why. It's Ferngully in space.
Break even for Alita was projected to be potentially only 350 million, but possibly up to 400 to 500. So yeah, it might have had several $1 million of losses. It looks like losses are projected as high as $53 million for that film. So not that great.
I don't think it cost as much as they think it did. He shot in Mexico. All the money went into effects. I don't know.
I think the other thing that would be negligent to talk about, if it would be negligent in the discussion of this film if it wasn't brought up, was Alita's eyeballs, which got some comments when the movie was coming out. I actually think it's a really effective use of CGI in terms of separating her from the rest of the people based off of what her character is, because she is not one of them and she's not just a regular android, as you learn. I don't really think it was all that distracting. Her eyes are bigger, yes, but they're not like Bugs Bunny big in a way. So I thought it was a really effective, and I guess subtle isn't the right word, but it was a good way of making her look different and separating her from the rest of the humans and the androids without doing something that drastically changed her aesthetics and made her other. If you know what I mean. Like, she clearly looks human still, clearly acts human still, but the eyes are just a little bit bigger, which gives her a slightly more alien look. Because as you learn later on, like, spoilers, she's not anywhere close to human, and she's not anywhere close to the ages of anybody else in the movie. She is significantly older. So I think that the eyeballs actually kind of helped move that part along without being too distracting. Plus, I mean, the original manga, from looking at it, Alita's eyeballs are enormous.
Yeah, but that's because, it's manga. Everybody's eyes are enormous.
Yeah. But part of me is like, well, why don't we do that? Why don't we make everyone's eyes enormous sometimes, just for funsies?
I think the real problem with it is the weird Uncanny Valley. But that's kind of the effect they were going for, Uncanny Valley.
It was,
and then they justified it by having, spoiler, all the other people of her type having enormous eyeballs, which we only see briefly.
Yeah, we see that they all have enormous eyeballs, and they also kind of blended the Uncanny Valley section with normal humans by a lot of the other androids have a similar kind of like CGI makeup, in the sense of it's their faces sort of grafted onto these CGI bodies, rather than having people wear suits or things like that, like Zapan? Yeah, that's clearly a guy having his face like casted onto a body. It's effective. Like, it's another good effect. I think in general the visual effects in this movie are really great, both from action and from the way that people are made up and how it works. So I think it kind of bridges the Uncanny Valley a little bit by not just having one character that looks like that, which would make it really a lot worse, but they have other characters that at least do the same facial mapping on top of their androidy bodies. I also really liked Alita's original like android body that Christoph Waltz gave her, that was originally built for his daughter. Like, it's very skeletal in a way because of the colors that are used to make up the like arms and legs. It's very elegant and bone-like, which I think was really cool, before she transitions into the other kind of like suit like body that they find. So yeah, that one was good. That one was quite good for a while. I was, until I watched Speed Racer, I was like, this is the best one of the lot. At least in terms of its general quality as a movie. I do think its quality as a movie is better than Speed Racer, but Speed Racer like nails Speed Racer so fucking good that it's hard to argue against it. I could see how it's becoming a cult classic now, but yeah. So Alita is good, especially if you get it on 4K with Atmos. Then
do you have an Atmos setup?
I do, yeah.
Oh, nice. I'm coming to your house.
Yep. Let's say I have it. That's one of the first things I did when we bought the house. Was I sort of built up the shit in the basement theater with the projector and an Atmos sound system and stuff like that.
Nice.
So I made sure to watch Alita down there because of that fact, since I wanted to take advantage of everything that it had to offer.
Mm-hmm.
So Alita's good. We spent a lot of time on it. So I want to talk about Speed Racer a little bit, because I think everybody should watch Speed Racer, at the very least, because the Wachowskis do such a good job capturing the attitude of Speed Racer and the idea of Speed Racer. Since it isn't really like a perfect adaptation, because it's not trying to adapt anything but the universe, but damn, is it a lot of fucking fun. Like, I think out of all the movies, Speed Racer had me smiling the most the whole time, because it's just so patently ridiculous. Like, the CGI is just, it mixes between, like, physics don't mean anything at all to purposely kind of shitty looking in a way. Because, like, I think what the Wachowskis did with Speed Racer was they tried to sort of mirror one of the most parodied and sort of beloved pieces of Speed Racer, which is its animation quality, which is bad. And rather than try to make a movie with like bad like cinematography or bad animation, they went in the opposite direction entirely and made everything so over the top, super CGI, that it somehow captures like the general feel of Speed and his family and Trixie and everybody, while also not being like a perfect pastiche. Because obviously you can't make a movie where everything looks like you're watching a slideshow, especially with a Hollywood budget. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to talk about it in a way, because it's just like, it's a 2-hour and 15-minute movie of nothing but over the top racing and action and CGI and just crazy go nuts colors. Like, the contrast knob is turned all the way up, so everything is super colorful. It mixes like a 60s aesthetic with like a retro futuristic aesthetic at the same time. So yeah, Speed Racer is fantastic. If you guys haven't watched it, I think it's really fun. It's not available for streaming anywhere unless you like buy it or rent it, which is a bummer. I don't know if it ever was, because it is from 2008. But it was crazy, the cast and the crew they got, because I believe it's the Wachowski siblings directed it. Then it has John Goodman, Susan Sarandon, Christina Ricci. I think Michael Giacchino does the music for it. I think, like, it just has a bunch of cast and crew members that I wouldn't expect to be involved in a movie about a 1960s anime that like nobody would have given two shits about in 2008 in terms of the general American public, for a big ass movie. And its box office definitely reflected that, because I'm pretty sure it was an enormous flop. Like,
yeah, it literally made less money than its budget.
Yeah, so I think. Yeah, I'll load it up on IMDb just to double check it if I can find those numbers easily. But all I do remember is, it flopped really, really hard.
Yeah, budget 120 million, box office 93.9 million.
Boom, baby. And I can understand why. After watching, I can understand why, because it has a very certain aesthetic that I think only like maybe kids and people who knew about Speed Racer originally would have wanted, because the racing is fun but makes no sense. Like, there's no physics in the car. There isn't any appreciable physics in the cars. They just spin around and bump into each other and fly and all sorts of crazy stuff. And some of the acting is intentionally like over the top, and I could see why it wouldn't really work for a lot of people because it feels weird just in general. But I like looking back on it now and watching it, you know, in 2021, it definitely has like a really fun camp feel and something you'd show your friends and everyone would have a great time just watching it because of how ridiculous it is. And the Mach 5 is always a really cool ass fucking car. Like if I had enough money in my life, I would try to build or buy a Mach 5 replica to drive around because I think that's a timeless design. So yeah, Speed Racer is really, really good. Then after that, it kind of takes a noticeable drop in quality. Oh, and John Goodman looks like Mario in Speed Racer. Like he plays their dad, who's just called Pops, and Susan Sarandon is just called Mom. Those are their names. Everyone's like, what's up, Pops? What's up, Mom? Even like in general business dealings, it's Pops. Pops Speed and Mom Speed.
That's funny.
Yeah. Or what is their last name? I can't remember because I think their last name is Racer, actually.
Right, of course.
They don't really talk about that part too much. His name is Speed Racer, and sometimes it's like, is that his name or is that his nickname? But I think that's his name. Yeah, I think they're the Racer family. So it's Pops Racer, Mom Racer, Speed Racer, and Rex Racer. And then the youngest, whose name is like Bridal or something like that. But yeah, after those two, it takes a little bit of a dive. And then we go into, let's see, I don't like talking too much really, but Death Note is good if you treat it as a reinterpretation of Death Note and not like an adaptation, if that makes any sense. Like, it is Death Note, and the, you know, all the story beats of Death Note are there, but you just have to kind of think about it in a way of the people who made the movie were just putting their spin on the story and the characters, because there are some distinct changes that kind of fuck with how the whole universe works. Like, the biggest one is really, like, Light sucks.
I mean, yes.
But he sucks in a way that just doesn't work, because, yeah, in the anime and the manga, he's the bad guy, depending on your view of the world. But in the movie, they just make him like a smarmy, shitty teenager who just gets in way over his head. And people talk about how smart he is, but he doesn't do anything in the movie to make you think that he's very smart. They just tell you he's smart because he did some homework for some other people at the very beginning, in the very first scene in the movie. He's doing like homework for 15 people. But then if it's all for the same class, he's just copying it. So they'd say like at least once or twice, L is like, your boy is really bright. And I mean, nothing he does in the movie would make me think that. He's just kind of a smarmy, like, shitty kid. So he is a very charismatic, and he doesn't really make you want to cheer for him, which is one of the strongest points for me for Death Note when I was watching the anime, was that there were times in the show where you could find yourself rooting for both kind of Light and L at the same time, depending on the situation that they were in, just because, yes, Light was the bad guy, but he had such a charisma about him, and the intelligence and that arrogance that kind of makes you attracted to somebody, like that confidence. And the live action Light has zero of those things.
Yeah, like, you know, Sopranos, Breaking Bad, all those kinds of shows where the protagonists are bad people, but you love them still because of how much fun they are, and how interesting they are, and how complex they are. And Light is definitely a good example of that in anime.
Yeah, the highlights from the movie, to talk about the good parts about it, because I don't want to just dwell on how L is shit and Mia is also shit. Willem Dafoe as Ryuk is a solid performance. Ryuk is a lot of fun when he is around. Like, he's kind of used sparingly, but the effects on him are really good, and I think Willem Dafoe kind of nails the Death God personality pretty well, like a trickster kind of way. And then Lakeith Stanfield as L is also really good. I think he's probably the strongest actor of the entire movie. He puts in a really strong performance. Especially there's a cafe scene where he talks to Light after L knows that it's Light, and he's just kind of grilling him about why he's doing what he's doing. And I think that was a really like intense sort of moment for him as L, and it's counterbalanced by those fun little quirks that L in the anime had. So when he meets Light's dad the first time, he tells him to sit. He's like, sit, rest your glutes. Like that weird sort of quirky stuff that I remember L having when, I think, what was it in the anime where he offers a guy a strawberry, like out of his pocket?
Yeah, he offers Matsuda the strawberry from his cake if he keeps his secret.
Yeah, like something like that. So the rest of your glutes I kind of felt was a callback to that a little bit, like something that's kind of like funny and almost childish in a way because he is super young, and when you find out about how he grew up, you're like, oh, I could see how he would have still some somewhat underdeveloped or childlike personality traits in that respect because of the way that he was raised. But he puts in a really good performance. I think the most shocking part of the movie actually was there's a lot of like gore and fuck words. Like they went super like hard R rating in a lot of ways. Like the first death you see is a kid, a bully at Light's high school getting decapitated by a ladder, and you see it fully. And it's barely a decapitation. It's more like a Gallagher watermelon smash.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think they probably knew they were going for shock value and hate watching over anything else with this movie.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was going to be the case because I didn't know a whole lot about the movie going into it. Other than I think I watched the trailer a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And of course the trailer is not going to show you any of that.
Yeah.
So I was rather shocked by it, and not in really a great way. I was like, oh, we're going to go with the edgy maturity like portion where the kids are just going to swear a lot and the deaths are going to be very violent, which they all are. And some of the effects are pretty good, like the blood effects and the squibs are satisfactory enough when heads explode or someone gets stabbed in the neck or shot or whatever. It's just the right amount of like over the top gore that it gives you that whole like ho sort of reaction rather than just disappointment or what have you.
The irony is that the tone and maturity that you're describing of this adaptation matches the current series by the creators of Death Note, Platinum End, like perfectly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you had mentioned that to me a little bit.
Yeah, it's
about
like,
it.
Yeah, it's like Dance or Future Diary, yeah.
Yeah, and it just doesn't really work for Death Note. I'm not really a fan of it, period.
Yeah.
For the most part, because I think it's just a really cheap way for movie creators to make you want to watch it because it's like, oh, it's mature because we swear and there's blood, kind of like how horror movie people will say a movie's really scary and make you feel like you're going to get scared, and it's just a series of jump scares, which that startles you, but it doesn't scare you. There's a difference. And that's kind of what they did here, which sort of makes it Light even less likable because he swears a lot and shit like that. So he kind of loses a lot of that charisma. I know they didn't try to really repeat the anime version of Light because he's shown as not being popular at all in the movie, and in the anime I remember he was at least relatively popular and had friends and shit. And in this movie he doesn't have any friends at all. Like the main thing I think I wrote down at one point when I was watching this, that it felt like Light and Mia were a dollar store version of the Natural Born Killers. Where they were just like getting off with each other about how they were killing people, and some of the scenes were just them chilling out in their bed making out and then writing names down in the Death Note. So yeah, it has a lot of flaws. The one attempt they do to make Light looks really smart, like the big reveal at the end of how he made his plan and how he got away with everything that he did, and in a sense he doesn't get away with it just like in the original manga and anime, but the process that he used to get up to this point works on what I believe is a Deus Ex Machina. I'm not super sure because I'm not like great with that definition and what that always means. But essentially, it exploits a rule for the Death Note made for this movie in particular that breaks the entire universe.
Of course.
So I don't know how much you know about the movie, Kestrel, if you watched it at all.
No, I haven't put myself through that yet. I feel like maybe if I'm putting myself through Cowboy Bebop anyway, I might try popping that on after, but I might not even make it through Bebop. So yeah. Most of what I've seen is trailers and compilations of Light screaming.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. The music is good too. I think that's by Atticus Ross. So the music is good, especially what they use kind of in the penultimate scene when Mia and Light they really have their backs to the wall. I think the music used in that scene is great and gives it an eerie feeling. But this rule is you can essentially control anybody's fate and what they do for 48 hours up until they die, which I don't believe is a rule in the anime. So essentially what you could do is I could write, today, Kestrel, you'll go to the store and you'll buy milk, and then on your way home from buying milk, you'll do this, you'll do this, you'll do this, you'll do this, you'll do that, and then after 48 hours, you'll die. Which makes it really easy for Light to do a lot of shit, because he essentially controls a person's entire universe up until they're dead 2 days later. And the movie didn't really make any sort of...
no, the original story, it's even longer.
I was doing research on this, actually, to see if there was a rule, and at least on like the official Death Note Wikipedia, I didn't find any rules that talked about how you could control what someone does and what they don't do for any extended period of time before their death.
Yeah, no, you can. I mean, there are some like asterisks to it. You can't make people do stuff that you can't make them do things to think of themselves, stuff like that.
That's out the window. No, that's out the window. You can control anything anybody does. And he uses it to be like, this guy that I wrote down his name is going to show up and rescue me out of this river 48 hours, like 24 hours after I fall into it or something like that. But it's like, it doesn't explain how that guy gets there. What if he gets stopped on the way there? How does he know how to get there? He just says, this guy rescues me from the river. And like, that's it. So it's like a really flimsy thing in the end. Like, if there is a rule that allows you to do stuff like that, then maybe I just missed it when I was reading it. But if I recall, it said that was one that was made for the movie.
Yeah, it sounds like it's probably a little
does
bit
make it really
different, but they definitely do utilize the controlling people rule in the series a lot.
I say, because it does make it very convenient when you can just have someone be in a very particular spot at a very particular time, even though they wouldn't have any idea how to get there in the first place or how they would end up there. It's just, this person will be here, but then how would they know? Like, if it's someone who's not from the area, if it's someone who may not have it just leaves like a shit ton of stuff up to chance that they just assume everything will work out because you're controlling this person's entire universe. But yeah, that's it. It made the ending feel unearned in how they kind of exploit that rule so hard to make that. It makes the ending feel a little ass-pulley and just not earned. And then it's supposed to be like, look how smart Light is, and it's kind of like, well, he just told a couple people to be at some spots and then kill themselves, and that was it. It wasn't on par with like how the show does all that stuff where like Light wipes his own memory and then I think keeps a piece of the Death Note in like in his watch for a long time, and does all of these very strategic and detail oriented plans. Plus, there's no potato chip scene. Worthless garbage.
Yeah, it sounds like they accidentally made an adaptation of Platinum End. From a lot of those aspects, because Platinum End does feel like some shitty middle schooler trying to adapt Death Note into something more edgy and simplistic, but it's actually by the creators of Death Note, which is super weird.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe that's just what they were going for, like just a grittier, hot topic-y version of Death Note, which is unfortunate because like L is good, and Willem Dafoe as Ryuk is good, and the set pieces are pretty good, especially towards the end with like in the trailer when they showed like the giant falling over Ferris wheel and stuff. That's cool. And the music is pretty good too from Atticus Ross, but yeah, it definitely has some flaws in the characterizations and making giving you motivation to want Light to even succeed a little bit, which the original manga and anime are so good at doing. Like, it's wrong, but it's kind of like, oh well, yeah, of course a teenager's arrogance and simplistic worldview, because they're only 17, this seems like the right thing to do, and depending on how you think about it, yeah, it is kind of, if you believe in, 100% punishment or revenge or whatever. But yeah, you just don't get those feelings from the movie necessarily. Like, you want to see Light lose almost immediately. But it makes cheering for L a lot better because, he's cool and eats a lot of candy. Let's see. Then there's Edge of Tomorrow, which is good, but I think everyone knew that already. It's got Tom Cruise. And I like Tom Cruise, and if you don't like Tom Cruise, this is a great movie to watch too, because Tom Cruise dies a lot. I think that's the easiest way to recommend recommend Edge of Tomorrow to someone is, if you like Tom Cruise movies, great. If you like Emily Blunt, great, you'll love this movie. If you hate Tom Cruise, also great, because he dies like 36 times. And you see it almost every time. Like, you see it coming, he'll get hit by a bus, or he'll get shot in the head. Emily Blunt shoots him in the head like a dozen times. But that's a good one. Then The Guyver is a schlocky, like, kind of horror-ish movie that even has the guy from Reanimator in it, and gives a callback to Reanimator. The big strong point about that movie is, for the most part, the suits and the physical effects are really good. Like, the Guyver suit is really cool and is made as a practical makeup effect, and suit really effective and neat to look at. Mark Hamill's in it, but yeah, he just plays a CIA agent. But I don't understand any of his motives or why he does anything he does for anybody. He's just, I'm a CIA agent. I provide the star power for this movie, right. I guess.
Yeah, it looks like he was top billed. He was the only name on the poster.
Yeah, it's because everyone else, I think, is... The only other person I recognized was a guy is in it from The Hills Have Eyes. Like the Wes Craven horror film from, I think, the 70s, maybe the 80s. He plays like the lead henchman. And then the second Guyver movie that they made, I think, has David Hayter as the main build.
That's right, yeah.
Star, who for the most part, I know him from being Solid Snake. Yeah. But that's fun if you like schlocky, VHS-y kind of horror stuff, like B-movie things, because it's got like some like Power Rangers. Is that what is the word for that? Like Tokusentai,
Tokusatsu,
something like that.
Yeah.
Tokusatsu, yeah. It has a lot of that because it's a guy dressed vaguely like a Power Ranger beating up a lot of like monster suits. It does definitely tone everything down because I think it's a PG-rated movie, and the anime and manga are very 90s, so there's a lot of like body horror and violence, if I recall. That's like pretty bloody, but they tone that down way for this movie, which I didn't quite understand because I don't think any kids are watching this. This clearly feels like a movie that you would watch at like a drive-in theater or with your buddies on your couch at like Friday at 11:30 at night. So you probably could have put some blood and guts and stuff in it, and it would have done just as well, if not better, at the box office, I think, depending on if maybe Mark Hamill wouldn't want to be involved if it had a lot of that. Who knows? So there's
also,
that.
this poster totally
then,
shows Mark Hamill as the Guyver.
He is not.
Yeah.
Mark Hamill is not the Guyver. Mark Hamill does go through a very slimy, cool-looking body horror transformation because he gets captured by the enemies and stuff, and then they inject him with some drugs and things, and then they try to turn him into a monster, but it doesn't work, so he turns into a beetle with the face of Mark Hamill, which is fucking cool. And they cover him with KY jelly or whatever to make him look all slimy. But no, Mark Hamill is not the Guyver. The Guyver is just some blonde-haired kid who is shit at karate. That's all you know about him for a while, is that he's shit at karate. That is his character. He is a guy who is crap at karate and has feelings for the girl character that is just a perpetual damsel in distress who really doesn't do anything except kick the bad guy in the nuts.
Nice.
Yeah. I think that has an Arrow Blu-ray. That's how I have it. So once that also gives it that credibility as a cult horror, schlocky film, is that Arrow picked up the rights and made a Blu-ray for it. And that's kind of their whole shtick, is Microwave Massacre, Birthday Party Massacre, etc., etc. When they're not doing Arrow Academy films, which tend to be a little bit more highbrow drama stuff, like The Apartment and things like that. But yeah, I was trying to think if I had seen any of the others. I think that almost covers them, because I didn't watch Dragon Ball. I didn't watch all of Ghost in the Shell because I just didn't like it.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's not good. The visual effects are fine. Everything else is trash. Yeah, I think that's about it. So, yeah, Edge of Tomorrow, Speed Racer, The Guyver, Alita, Death Note movie. I think that makes 5 that I watched, and 3 of those were pretty good. Speed Racer, Edge of Tomorrow, and Alita are good. Netflix's Death Note is and The Guyver is good if you're into that type of thing. So it's really not that bad, I guess, is my general opinion of our Hollywood sort of live-action adaptation record, is that depending on the mentality that you go into watching it, they're really not as bad as people would make you think they are, except for Ghost in the Shell. Which is just straight up bad.
Yeah, I think you might be the only person who thinks Ghost in the Shell is worse than Death Note.
Probably, yeah. Probably, yeah. I don't know why I think that either. Maybe they're more on par with each other. I guess it just really depends on my mood at the time, because it's much easier to hate watch Death Note.
Yeah. I guess if you consider So Bad It's Good to be a valid form of entertainment, then I guess Death Note is better, because Ghost in the Shell is just bleh.
Yeah, it's just bleh and bad and sad. But Death Note, yeah, you can hate watch it and laugh with people who've watched it with you and know about the thing, which does give it at least some entertainment value. So I guess that's the only way I would rank it, quote unquote, above Ghost in the Shell, is for that quality that it has, which is not necessarily a positive quality unless you're only thinking about movies from an entertainment standpoint and not their execution, cultural impact, box office capabilities, etc., then I guess it's better in a way. But yeah, so we'll see where Cowboy Bebop ends up on this list. It cannot be worse than Ghost in the Shell for me, at least, because maybe I'll like John Cho. Because I like John Cho in general. So at least they didn't make Tom Cruise be Spike Spiegel or something.
It was supposed to be Keanu Reeves back when it was supposed to be a live-action film in 2008.
Yeah. Huh. I didn't know that.
Equally as old.
Yeah, I mean, 2008, he doesn't age. He looks basically the same all the time.
Which,
that's a myth. He ages.
In Hollywood, basically nobody ages, so it doesn't matter. John Cho looks young.
That's true. Tom Cruise looks pretty young, too.
Tom
still.
Cruise is like the conspiracy theory drinking the blood of children.
That's like
person.
That's
He's
like
a vampire.
every
Let's put it
action
this way.
star, every sex symbol. They all go decades without aging. It's just Hollywood magic. Lots of plastic surgery and makeup and CGI.
Basically.
Oh, and one more thing about Edge of Tomorrow. You get Tom Cruise running like 5 minutes into the film.
Perfect. That's
Yep.
all you need.
You check that box off almost immediately. Like, you get Tom Cruise. He only runs for like 5 seconds. But you get him running, and he's running towards the camera, which is perfect. So you get that in the movie. And also in Edge of Tomorrow, like, it just throws you in it. I think the first big battle is like 20 minutes into the film. I think I checkmarked the end of it from when Tom Cruise is introduced to when he dies for the first time and wakes up. It's like 25 minutes, so the movie does not fuck around. It puts you right into the battle against the mimics and his whole Groundhog Day effect and everything, like, immediately. Which is good. It doesn't beat around the bush trying to give you all this exposition and origin story for Tom Cruise's character and what have you. It's just like, this is Tom Cruise. He is kind of a piece of shit guy who is forced military, like, he's arrested while being in the military and then forced to fight on the front lines as punishment, kind of. And here we go. And that's it. What'd you put in the chat? Oh, Keanu, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I guess
Keanu
that's
Reeves
true.
would have been 44 at the time, and John Cho is 49 right now.
So
Yeah.
not that far off.
Yeah, by the time that movie would have gotten made, Keanu would have been like 49 as well.
I still laugh about Edge of Tomorrow, Edie is Kill, whatever. Because in the original novel, there's a point where I can't remember her name. Rita. She is like laughing because they've made action figures of her and like a movie in universe where she is played by like a busty blonde lady, when in reality she's like a short brunette. And I'm like, oh my god, the movie is just the
Right.
in universe movie. I'm like, that's hilarious. I'm like, this is exactly what happened.
In this movie, she's used as like a major propaganda piece, which I think is what they did in the manga as well, or at least
I mean, there's a little bit of that in the novel too, where she was like kind of like she is like the larger than life like super soldier, and she's just like, I'm just some girl from Mississippi who, is like this going through the same thing or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
Emily Blunt does a good job playing her because it's a very similar sort of feel where it's like, oh, she's super jaded, of course, because she's died like 300 times. And, she is aware of this whole, alien plot, etc., etc. So she's not very approachable. And she doesn't carry around a huge battle axe like in the manga and probably the novel. It's just like a sword made out of some like rusty scrap metal, but the idea is the same and the effect works the same. She doesn't really use guns. She just beats everything to death with a giant guts sword.
Yeah, I can't remember there was a reason for that in the book, and I can't remember what it was.
In the novel, I
Something.
think it's just because the guns were bad. Like the guns would jam a lot, like the weapons that they used to kill mimics. So she used an axe, and then the main character in the manga asked for an axe as well. What's his fucking name? I can't remember what the character's name is. I think it's like Keiji or something like that. And he wants
like Kaji, and then they were calling him Cage because a bunch of the other soldiers are calling him that because that's basically what his name boiled down to. So
oh well, I guess that lends credence to why they changed his name almost only in terms of the important characters, because Tom Cruise's name is Cage.
yeah, exactly.
So that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But yeah, in the manga and I guess the novel, it was an axe just because the guns always jammed and had limited ammo, but you could kill them by hitting them with a big sharp thing.
Yeah.
So that's what they went with. They didn't really explore that really in Edge of Tomorrow. It says she had a sword and it was badass. But Tom Cruise's character, Major William Cage, used the guns and all this other shit and shoulder-mounted cannons and stuff, which is pretty cool. Like, the action sequences are really neat with their power suits and stuff like that. I think they're working on a sequel movie, which doesn't make a ton of sense.
Yeah, Death Note's getting a sequel too.
I could see how they would do that a little bit, because the ending for the Death Note movie isn't absolute like the anime is. Like, they leave room for it to be like, where do we go from here? But Edge of Tomorrow has a pretty final ending. Like, the aliens are defeated. The war is over. I don't know where you would really go from there, but money, money, money.
That's a much different ending than the novel.
Yeah, the ending of the movie is a lot different. I understand why they did it.
Yeah, because people would have been furious.
Yeah, totally.
Spoilers for All You Need Is Kill. Kaji realizes that the loop is just going to... He's going to eventually get stuck in the same situation that Rita did, and nothing has been resolved, and the war just continues, essentially.
Well, they fix it. They fix it in the manga, at least, because they have to kill each other, is what it turns into. And Keiji kills Rita.
Yeah, but then like there's always the possibility that he could become an antenna too.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
so
true.
He doesn't even know, like, that stops that loop, but the loop might begin again, just with him as the antenna, so. And
the ending is a little botched in the movie as well, because you get this big scene, so like the third act of the movie is kind of almost retconned in the last 3 minutes of the film. I don't know why they did it this way, except maybe because they wanted a happier ending. But, obviously, spoilers continued for this. But, so there's a big battle. There's, all the major characters and side characters that you even have any kind of connection to are sacrificing themselves for this last push to defeat the aliens, with their like main brain trust being holed up in Paris in the Louvre. So it's very much like a classic war movie, like, or Seven Samurai type thing, where it's like all the people are gradually dying one by one in very heroic, self-sacrificing deaths and stuff. Even both Emily Blunt and Tom Cruise, and the way that Tom Cruise goes is kind of cool, because he throws a bunch of grenades into the mouth of the demon, and you don't think he did it, but then he turns around and lets go of the grenade pins, and it's a cool, badass moment. And then when all that happens, he loops one more time to before any of the movie happened. Even though at that point he can't loop anymore, but somehow he loops, and he loops before any of it happens, and when he wakes up in the helicopter, the war's over. So the sacrifice feels kind of pointless, because it's like, oh, not only did you get to loop one more time, so everyone is alive, but you also looped back, and the war is over. So you didn't really loop back. You looped back to an alternate timeline or something.
It's like, you broke reality. Congratulations.
Kinda.
It's like, wait a minute. None of this makes sense.
Kinda. Like, it breaks its own rules as the movie, which is probably one of the biggest problems that a movie can do, is when it breaks its own in-universe rules, and it does it in those last 3 minutes, and I don't understand why they did that, other than they figured people wouldn't be happy if all of the heroes died in the end, even though the major enemy was defeated. Like, Tom Cruise has to still be alive somehow, and so does Emily Blunt, and everyone can feel happy, because nobody dies.
That's very bizarre.
Yeah, when it was way better when everybody was dying to, like, serve this final battle, this big purpose, this life-defining action, and then it would be much better if they just had it like maybe a memorial when they eventually found out that that's what happened to all these people when they went to Paris and found their bodies and the other stuff, and be like, oh wow, these people made this major sacrifice for us. But instead, no, we just rewound the clock all the way before Tom Cruise even enters battle for the first time, except now the war's over. So that was a little shit, but the rest of the movie is great.
Bizarre.
Tom Cruise has a fun little death scream. Yeah, he gets hit by a bus and a truck and a couple other things, and every time it happens, he goes like, "What?" Like they give him a little weird Wilhelm scream.
Did you see that truck advertisement in Japan? Where they were playing up the whole like truck kun thing about getting killed by the trucks.
Oh yeah.
It's like the Isuzu elf or something like that. They have like all these girls dressed up like elves posing around it, and then there's some book where it's like, reborn in another world as the truck or so. I don't know. It's bizarre. Thanks, Japan. At least they're in on their own joke, so.
True. No, I'll have to look that up then.
I gotta find the link. So bizarre.
Yeah, that's about all I have for the live action movies that we have now. I still want to watch The Fist of the North Star just because someday, but it is hard to get unless I want to like buy a VHS or some shit.
It'll be that like that episode really of Cowboy Bebop trying to get the VHS player.
Oh yeah, no, it'd be a very similar thing. Like maybe some like boutique people picked it up and did like a shitty DVD release at one point in time. Yeah, it's a 1986 film. I don't know if you can buy it.
It looks like someone just put it all up on YouTube if you want to just steal it. There's no way to see it officially.
Oh yeah, there's a DVD out there, but you got to pay like $70.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no. I don't care that much. I'll watch it on YouTube or some shit. Yeah, it's like $74 for this crappy looking DVD. I'll find another way, even if it's just on YouTube, just to watch maybe a couple scenes until it gets unbearable. Oh, sorry. That 86 was the Japanese film. This is 1995, which is somehow worse than 1986. Yeah, I think you said, Dante Bosco's in this. Oh, I think a professional wrestler. Yeah, professional wrestler is in this too, because of course. Of course.
Yeah, my favorite part of the Wikipedia for that is where it talks about the main actor. Here, I'll pull it up here.
Oh, Melvin Van Peebles is in it? Holy shit.
Actor Gary Daniels' nickname on the set was Condom Man, in reference to the prosthetic used to create the famous chest scars being made from unrolled condoms. There you go. Kenshiro's famous Big Dipper scar is a bunch of condoms.
Bunch of unrolled condoms glued or spirit gummed onto his chest. Very good. Wow, this has a weird cast. Downtown Julie Brown, Melvin Van Peebles, Dante Bosco, Big Van Vader, who was a WWF wrestler at the time. Wow. Oh, there's that truck thing. Alright, well, yeah, that's about all I got. So, yeah, watch Edge of Tomorrow and Alita and Speed Racer, and then watch the others if you want. But I can at least recommend those three as movies that I think are legitimately good. Is there anything else?
I think that covers it. Until next week.
Yeah.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, I look forward to hearing about AnimeNYC shenanigans, and then of course Cowboy Bebop.
Whenever I get around to that.
Stuff. But yeah, are we gonna do any like recommendations or anything per usual? Or
I guess we should.
I mean, I kind of did it already.
I mean, if you only want to recommend live action Hollywood adaptations of anime, sure.
That's it, because I think that's going to be on brand for the episode. And I haven't watched anything else except Ranking of Kings is still really, really good.
Yeah.
So if you haven't been watching Ranking of Kings, watch that and drop whatever else you're watching this season. If you have to make room, because it fucking
is
great.
Really great. Yesterday, the Future Boy Conan Blu-ray came out. That is the complete series from like 1978. Hayao Miyazaki's first full directorial work. with a dub even from the Ocean Group in Vancouver. So that is out from G Kids and Shout Factory. And mine shipped, so I don't have it yet, but I'm very excited to check that out finally. Also, one thing I did get in the mail today was One Piece Pirate Recipes by Sanji, which is a One Piece cookbook, and it's a nice big hardcover book. It's kind of skinny, but it's got recipes from One Piece, and that's neat. Also, there's a Steins Gate manga that is okay as a Steins Gate adaptation, but it's still the story of Steins Gate, which means it's pretty good. And that just got a hardcover all-in-one release that I think is a Barnes & Noble exclusive. So that's another thing you can pick up. I think that's about all I got.
Kate, how about you?
I'm still looking. There's something I wanted to recommend, and now I can't remember what the hell it was.
I want to know how many recipes in that book are real recipes that are kind of actually One Piece related, and how much of it is filler that's just baked chicken breasts.
Yeah, I haven't looked into it that much, but I think they have scenes from the manga for each one, so that it's they've got over 1,000 chapters to work from, so I'm sure there is enough for a few dozen recipes.
I can't find anything. I can't remember what I was going to recommend people buy.
It must not be that good then.
I had a great idea. It's gone now. It's just gone out of my brain, far, far away.
Well, perhaps you can save it for next time then.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think
maybe I'll remember it by then.
I think we can call it quits for the evening, man.
Our super short 2-hour episode.
Yup.
As we do.
Yeah.
As we do.
Could have been longer.
Yeah. This is true. But hey, we don't have to talk about this stuff next time.
Exactly. We'll have plenty to talk about.
No, we can give all of our attention. We can give all of our attention, for better or for worse, to Netflix Bebop.
Yeah, we'll see if we all have time to watch it all by the next time we record. If not, we've got plenty to talk about from the weekend anyway with AnimeNYC and everything else.
Indeed. Well, I can't remember. Kate, do you normally do the outro?
I guess so.
You can find Phantom Post Radio on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud, Alexa, iHeartRadio, phantompost.com. You can also listen to it on Facebook. You can find us on Facebook. Follow us also on Twitter. Get in contact with us through either of those or via email, phantompostradio@gmail.com. I'm on Twitter at FullMetalKioma.
I am on Twitter at SonicBug.
And I am only available here. So if you want my shit takes, you're gonna have to listen.
I mean, they're not shit.
Sometimes I do hype them up because I know some people like listening to things that they disagree with on purpose. Though a lot of them, they come straight from the heart, baby. Especially the real terrible ones. But yeah, thanks everyone for listening. Give these live action adaptations a chance, because what's the worst that could happen? So, thanks for listening, and I believe we will talk to you soon.
See ya.
Bye.